So, good morning. So, my first question to you is Madurai is a temple town, and this time it's been in the previous past, there were many of the national issues which were related to temple in the country. So, you being the representative of Madurai for people, how do you take it?
Actually, I have a long history with the temple. I was just speaking in the campaign that one of my ancestors was in here in the 1520s, 30s, 40s. He served as the Prime Minister of the Naya Kingdom for many kings, 4 generations. And he built the 1,000-pillar hall, and his descendants built like the Chitrai Tower, Mudaliyar Mandapam, that's my community. So various parts of it. So we have a long history of the temples. I have a second history, which is that my grandfather, my great-granduncle was part of the Justice Party, one of the senior leaders. At inception, he was the vice president. He was one of the drivers of the Temple Nationalization Act, meaning the king's temples, which otherwise were not in a line of inheritance.
Right, sir.
So we had long. And my grandfather was the whip of the government, of the Justice Party government in the Madras Legislative Council when it happened under Dayaki, 1926. And then, of course, between my grandfather, my father, my mother, and me, we have done a lot of our own contributions and donations to the temples, including the main idol in Sabarimala now, was donated by my grandfather. And he did the renovation of many temples. He was chairman of the Madurai Meenakshi Amman Renovation Committee of Tenkasi, Kasi Viswanathar, Vadapalani Temple in Chennai. Many. My mother is now the current chairperson, first female chairperson of the trust. So in that sense, I would say we are deep believers ourselves and a family that has contributed a lot to the maintenance and kind of promulgation of temples. On the other hand, we were the staunchest drivers that those large temples that are cultural artifacts, that are icons of our legacy, of our history, when we are a democracy as opposed to a kingdom of the past, then they should be the people's asset held in trust by the government. Of course, we have a human management process. The HRNC department has a statewide advisory board, has district trustee boards, has large temples have their own trust boards, nominated based on applications and selection. But it is, to my knowledge, the best possible model. Of course, no model is perfect, and government departments everywhere face criticisms of corruption or malfeasance. It's not one government, it's not one department, it's not one state. It's not one country. But compared to any other alternative, it seems to be the best. And that is why I think in the 2010, 8, 12 time when the Honorable Prime Minister was then Chief Minister of Gujarat, they nationalized a lot of the old architecturally important temples in Gujarat. And the BJP governments in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh and so forth have been nationalizing temples. Because it is a better model than just running some, coterie, manage it. So, in that sense, I would say it is the best natural fit that what once used to be the kind of, dominion of kings and emperors and queens should now be the people's held in trust by the government. This notion of free the temples, I think, is a bit chaotic because first of all, I don't know a better model. And second, is there any process in this country where the political executive cannot interfere? Like let's say I ran elections for the Meenakshi Amman Temple Trust. Who will be the voting bloc?
Right.
All the citizens within 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers? Only the Hindus within 5 kilometers? What if there's a die-hard Meenakshi adherent in New York? Will they get a vote? What about in Delhi or in Chennai? So, first of all, it's hard to determine who are the interested parties to be given the right to participate. Second, surely there's political interference in everything. If you say that, there will be a board, whether it's within the HRNC or outside, the government will have a hand in everything. The Rotary Club, they say, is politicized these days, right? somebody was lamenting. So politics is in everything. Government is in everything. Who's the president of the BCCI? Huh?
Right. So my next question is, the DMK government has been considered to be a rational, secular kind of party. So you being the head of a religious city, how do you manage within the party?
Yeah, actually, I would say that the DMK has always stood for individual choice. I think the DK was a bit more aggressive about the notion of not having followership. But from Peranangan Anna, who is the founder of our party, from his time onwards, the logic was live and let live. Right? Whoever wants to be, whatever they do that. If there is a big shift, I would say it is that the current HRNC minister in my government has been by far the most, by a factor of 10 or something, the most active HRNC minister in terms of number of temples for Kumbhabhishekam, number of temples for daily puja, number of properties reclaimed, temple properties reclaimed. So we were always a bit like agnostic. We didn't say do, don't do. So people like me and my father and my grandfather could flourish in the movement. In fact, the Justice Party itself was not at all in the kind of rationalism or anti-faith. It was only social justice, and it was social justice before Thiru Periyar, who was a member of the Congress when the Justice Party was founded, before he came home. It was like that. And so I don't think there's a natural conflict, but the kind of pace of pro-temple activities by our government is unprecedented. Not any government of any party, not even the Congress government of like the 50s has done so much for the temple. So that's a bit new.
Whom do you consider to be the bigger opposition this time? AIDMK, NDA and BJP or TVK?
Yeah, I don't know. From our perspective, it is usually about us and the people, right? It's hard for me to say who is bigger opposition because if you are the opposition, then the government is your target. If you are the government, then retaining your position is your target. The fact that there are one or two or three makes the electoral map different, but it doesn't change the kind of approach, which is you go and talk about your governance and your deliveries and what have you achieved, and then see if people give you the chance to come back. So I'm not looking at anybody as an opponent. Politics is a competitive business, but we each running our own campaign. If you ask me, each party has some strengths and weaknesses. So we have a strong cadre, we have massive infrastructure, we have been in office for 5 years, so we have incumbency advantages. We also may have anti-incumbency sentiment, but overall, these are our position. If you take the ADMK, by itself it is a strong cadre-based party. By association with the BJP in coalition, it loses some of its appeal to the public. But it has execution capability. If you take the TVK, it seems to have a whole lot of generational appeal, not across the spectrum, but with the very young people. But what it doesn't have is experienced kind of cadre and institutional knowledge, meaning like only after you run one or two elections that the ecosystem of the party starts to be attuned to it. The first election is very difficult. So my own view, the ADMK coalition has got stability, base, execution ability, but it's very hard to compete with the charisma of a major movie star. The TVK has the charisma of a major movie star, but seems to lack as all new parties. So it'll be really interesting to see what vote share the TVK gets this time, because if they get a respectable vote share, then it will be unprecedented, right, for the first time, and then it will mean that the available tools, technology, and so forth have advanced so much that you can build capability quickly in institutional capacity in running a party, right? So I think short term, long term, you have to see how it happens.
Okay. So CM has continuously been quoting that he's been fighting his election against Delhi, against So how do you take that factor to this
That is
logic?
all of our fight is towards Delhi, because basically what we are in is a colonizing mentality from Delhi, right? Like the notion of double engine sarkar, the notion of through Devendra Fadnavis, my friend and former colleague in the GST Council, coming here and saying that only if my candidate is elected you will get the metro. These are all, unprecedented attacks on the independence of institutions and the neutrality of governance. So no other party has weaponized the people's money, taxpayers' money, politically as this BJP-led government. And so it's a bit kind of, self-explaining, because if they say only if you get double engine sarkar and do whatever I say, I'll give you money, then the people have to decide what is at stake here. It's not whether Erupari or DMK, it is whether the BJP's ally or DMK. Even the perception of the ADMK changes now. Right? And so in that sense, it is definitely a battle between the DMK's philosophy of state autonomy, social justice, respect for all, access for all, and a more welfare state, versus the BJP's kind of homogenizing, one country, one tax, one country, one language, one country, one food, one country, one express. So we are standing for the identity of the Tamil people, and the other camp, by definition, is standing for homogenization. And so that's, I think, very easy for people to understand. Like all my polling shows that people understand quite clearly that is the case.
There's a mandir nearby, like 12 kilometers from him, Tripurna that was being considered to be a very big issue made by BJP for that.
It was instigated. I'm not even giving it to the BJP at start. I think it was, the problem when you get so powerful in Delhi, the problem when you have so many states and the government and all the money and all the control and all that, you will start finding acolytes or followers or wannabe new favorites trying to act more loyal than the king, to please the king. You know what I'm saying? Like they will each try to outdo themselves in their behavior that they think will make the king happy, so that they can get opportunity or set out of it. So what we saw in Tripura was, I won't blame the RSS or BJP saying it was targeted. I would say it was opportunistic by some people who wanted to show they were more Hindutva than the BJP, and therefore tried to get something fixed. And it fails, right? Like most of these aggressive, it's just, it succeeds, but it's outrageous. Like most of these attempts are by lower level officers. I don't think every one of them is coordinating with HU. Sometimes it may be direction coming down, but much of the time it's this guy trying to please or gather or gain the attention of the big bosses, right? And so I think in Tripura that's what they tried. I won't blame it to central down. I would say bottom up.
Okay.
And luckily it was diffused. And now if you see, when we all talk about it, like there was a very nice documentary by NDTV, and one of the people interviewed is the sitting MLA, Rajan Chelappa, of Tripura, of ADMK, you must know. That guy basically said the same thing I said, that this will not be an issue in the election. We are not here for any fight. Right? The people will be harmonious.
I have a last question to you, sir. You being the finance expert for, so long you've been working everywhere. So the BJP is continuously blaming DMK for the freebies, the kind of bouquet they have been presenting in their campaigns and all. So how do you think it contributes to the economy of the state? It helps the people to grow, or is it just a campaign gimmick or something like that? Because this is being done by every party in every state.
So you answered your question yourself, in the sense, at least one part of the answer. The first part of my answer is that much of the debate around so-called freebies or gifts or cash is just hypocrisy. If A does it, A will consider it welfare and B will consider it freebie. If B does it, B will consider it welfare and A will consider it freebie. So first you must take out the political rhetoric because it's meaningless. Next you say there are some things the state ought to do that is his day job to protect the people at the bottom of the pyramid, unemployment insurance, health, or free food for children in schools. It is either protection or it is investment in the future. I get the children to be more productive 20 years, 15 years from now, and that's the right thing to do. Or it could be risk management. We used to give loans so they don't have to take debt for, and we used to give grants for some schemes. They don't have to take debt for wedding or, like crop and stuff like that. So basically, so thoughtful people would say there's a whole lot of programs that you can, I suppose, somehow call freebies or not, depends, that's just personal choice, where you can justify them either as achieving equality or achieving some better equity or supporting the bottom of the pyramid in a way that is good for your conscience. There's different ways of looking at it. In our case, I would say, because we have a very high consumption state, we have a high per capita income, one of the highest in India, but we also have high consumption per capita because we are a more equitable society. We don't have too many billionaires and too many poor people. So the average person is much better off. And so here, basically, this money that was given out is probably recirculated in the economy at multiplier effect. So if you ask me, one of the reasons that Tamil Nadu had almost 16% national growth last year and 11.19 real is not purely industrial investment or industrial promotion, because the gestation period. If I sign an MOU today, it'll take me 5 years before we get the contract, acquire the land, build this up. So if things have suddenly shown up in 2025-26, that means that they probably were started by 22-23 or 23-24 at the latest. And what is it that you started that brings you here? That depends on your relative value of, prioritizing investment. Do you want to prioritize in human capital investment? Then you go more to the elementary school or to school, college student laptops or scholarships. Do you want to prioritize health? Is different. I don't know what to say. Like, in the end, everything is theory till the outcome comes. Even then, it's hard to attribute cause to effect very, clearly always. But at least till the result comes, it's harder to say what is the consequences of what. Right? And in this particular case, I would say that we have achieved an economic growth rate that is the envy of this country. Right? Nobody else came within like 2% of us, I think. And so it's worth studying more to see what it is. Since it's not my department anymore, I haven't looked at the data. But there is a department called Economics and Statistics, which I headed for a while.
Right.
When I was finance minister, I was also minister for 4 or 5 other things. So you can find out there, I think.
So one more question to just last. So the DMK party has all the leaders, like you yourself is the third generation in the politics. Even CM, fourth generation, sorry. And CM and the deputy CM. So is it the legacy or it's the dynasty?
Again, it's hard to say. At the hypocrisy level, every party has dynasts. Who is Thirupesh Goyal? Who is Amar Ujala? I can name a number of people. At a practical point, you have to ask the question: what kind of, person and what kind of circumstances. So I'm saying, in my case at least, I've justified it 2 ways. In the sense that I only came at the age of 50, 10 years after my father died, in order to do community service after I had achieved my goals of being independently wealthy and successful and patent holder and this and that. So if I am a dynast, then I am the least problematic dynast. Of course I am a dynast, but if I was not my father's son and the lineage, I'm not sure the party would have given me the ticket. I'll go the other way. If I was not my father's son and the lineage and felt I needed to contribute, I would not have asked for the ticket. Right? But broadly, if you ask me, the most common way I can say this is, The reason there's a lot of dynasts and sons and daughters and nephews and nieces and so forth in politics is that actually name recognition and long-term relationship building is very important in politics. And so if the scale is 30,000 or 40,000 people per voter, like in Australia or so, then it's reasonable that you can win as an independent or without a party or without a communications plan or without any of those things. But if the scale is 250 people or 250,000 people average MLA, then it helps a lot if you already have a brand going for you. So a lot of it is pick the son and we get the brand value of that relationship and that family, right? So that's across all parties, I'm not saying mine. So I think that there are many kinds of like successor politicians. How you get there is not important. It could be 100 different ways. What you do after you get there is what matters, right? So I don't think you can categorize any of this one way or the other, right?
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah?
Thanks for talking.
Okay.
अगर आप ये वीडियो YouTube पर देख रहे हैं तो हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर बेल आइकन दबाएं और Facebook पर देख रहे हैं तो हमारे पेज को लाइक करें।